Good afternoon, everyone. How's it going? Look at that. Straight away, people filling in the chat from South Africa to Glasgow to USA, Amsterdam. Goodness me. It's a full session today. So thank you for joining. First bit of uh, sort of house admin, a bit of housekeeping. Those regulars I see in the chat will recognize that we have to change the little blue bit at the bottom of the chat to from hosts and panelists to everyone. Otherwise, only we get to see your comments. So do what's oh no, I'm pointing the wrong way. Do what's on the screen here and make sure that everyone can see where you're logging in from. And because we're with the team at Innocent, can you let us know what your favorite Innocent drink is? So for me, Birmingham, and I'm old school, strawberry and banana. Let's go for that. Okay, let me first of all introduce our guests. We've got two wonderful, wonderful people. As you know, Annie and Ellie have given up their time today. They are both from the social media team, but they do quite different jobs. So Annie Muller is digital and social media manager for Innocent, and on her signature, she puts Annie Muller, not the Muller corner. And Ellie Keon is European Communities Manager, and under hers she has "Hit Me Baby, One More Lime," and also a really helpful note that says, "Please note the entry gate is on Kelsall Road, just in case you thought you had to scale the fence," which I think tells you the kind of brains that we've got on today's webinar and that we're going to have a lot of fun. So you should be able to click on their LinkedIn profiles. I'm not sure how active the two of them are. I appreciate when it comes to managing your own social media, it's probably the last thing you want to do after a day at work in the social team when you just want to have a lie down. So Joe and I went to Fruit Towers, which is Innocent's head office, earlier this year to interview Annie and Ellie. And it was clear that from the very beginning, these two stood out for a couple of reasons. They really know their stuff from both the strategic and tactical point of view. And they also represent Innocent in an incredibly natural way. Notice how I didn't use authentic there. I'm trying to avoid that word, but really authentic. They've been part of creating an environment that nurtures creativity and individuality. And that leads to some exceptional work. And we could see when they gave us a tour of their offices just how passionate they were about the campaigns because they put them up around the corridors and the stairwell and that sort of thing. And there was just pride beaming from them. It was lovely to see. And I've actually still got to edit that video, which will sort of bring out soon. Before we get going, I just want to talk about our friends at ScoreApp. So ScoreApp, as you can see on here, are a quiz marketing platform that attracts leads and insights to help increase sales. But we've actually used it in a slightly different way. So on our website now, we've got a little widget in the corner that you can click on and tell it what kind of content you're looking for on our website, which is really cool. So if you go, as I say, afterwards, if you go afterwards, you can go and have a look at that. But this QR code that I've got on the screen, if you click on that, you can get a free book from them on how to generate consistent high quality leads. As marketers, that sounds like a pretty good deal. No catches. You can just scan that afterwards. I'll send that in the follow-up email as well. And then we also have the rest of our wonderful sponsors. These are folks that all allow these webinars to happen for free. So a big thank you to Frontify, Exclaimer, Cambridge Marketing College, Redgate, and of course, ScoreApp. So that is my introduction done. It's great to have you here, Annie and Ellie. Shall we kick off with a first sort of easy question for Annie? Could you give us just an idea of, obviously we've seen the behind the scenes at Fruit Towers. Could you give us an idea of the size of the team and the sort of setup of the social team that you've got there at Innocent?
Yeah, of course. So we at Innocent like to distinguish between proactive and reactive social media, which is why we've got Ellie and myself as like the heads of the team. So what we do is we'll have our proactive side of people in the team who concentrate on creating the content, making the strategic decisions as to why we make the content the way we make it, and then also report back on how these contents are performing both on organic and paid and anything else we activate. Whereas the reactive side is what we call the people's champions. So this is a team that Ellie heads up, and their main goal is to just leave drinkers happier than we found them. So they're the ones that will be getting back to you in the comments, getting back to people through DMs, any touch point we have that's online or in real life, the people's champs are involved in it. And it's really important that as a team, we work really closely together, because we can use the information that people's champs are getting to inspire ourselves for content, but then also for bigger business decisions, or if something's not working on a drink, or if we've had a misprinted label, they're the ones that will get the first touch point from drinkers reaching out to us. So they're the ones that then have to report it back into the business.
And is that quite equally split between, like, size wise? Are they similar size teams?
Yeah, so actually our proactive's a little bit smaller. It's yeah, but overall I'd say it's almost 50-50. And the aim is that, as hopefully we continue to grow, we can also hopefully continue to grow the teams evenly and
Yeah,
equally.
brilliant. And Ellie, like, no day is going to be normal for you. I guess you come in as a reactive team. Like, what does a typical day look like for you?
Yeah, I mean, my typical day is probably quite boring compared to my team's because it's a lot more meeting heavy. But more from a community side, team wise, it's coming in the morning, looking at all the comments we've had overnight, all the interactions we've had overnight, looking for the kind of urgent stuff to answer, so more of the complaints, PR crisis kind of stuff as a first point of call, and then just getting back to as many people as possible for the first kind of couple of hours of the day as quickly as we can. Team brainstorms with Annie, that's where we all come together to think of content and think of ideas. Annie telling us when she's posting so we can be all hands on deck, ready to tackle the comments as quickly as possible. We also have people kind of randomly turn up at the building and ask for a tour. So our team also
Like me and Joe.
yeah, people like you. No, we have lots of people turn up because they read the back of bottles or see us on social talking about tours in comments, and people just turn up and then we drop everything and go and do a tour of the office. So can be a bit of everything. As you said, just depends on the day.
Yeah. And you talk about the ideas, Annie. That was one of the first sort of questions I got for you. And by the way, folks, I didn't even mention, if you could get your questions for Annie and Ellie in the Q&A, which you'll see at the bottom. And then if you see a question that you want answering, give it a little thumbs up and we'll answer the ones that have got the most upvotes first. So rather than putting questions in the chat, put them in a Q&A and we'll get onto those later. I'm selfishly going to get through my questions first. I was going through some of your brilliant content on Instagram earlier, and I found it really interesting how you can make content about a stapler going to the Taylor Swift Eras tour, or how to scramble eggs in a microwave or dry clothes, um, and somehow link it back to the brands. Like, some of them, what is a fruit not good at? Like driving. And those sort of posts, you can almost see the link because it's got fruit in it. But then when you're talking about scrambled egg, like, how do you? There's quite a lot of that content, and it feels on brand. But how do you kind of justify that content to, like, when you're coming up with a plan for social?
Yeah, no, of course. I think there are some that do really, really well. So the stapler one's a really good example of when what we call branded entertainment. So branded, random, culturally relevant conversations people have that have nothing to do with, I guess, smoothies. And some of them do really, really well. Most of them actually, if we look at performance of posts themselves, our branded entertainment posts are the top performing ones. And I think a key part of that is that Innocence brand is about being human and being that friendly voice that you have when you're, for example, at the pub with one of your mates, or you're playing board games one night. Like, that's kind of what we try to make Innocent sound like and feel like to anyone who engages with the brand. And so why wouldn't we then talk about the weather being so poor and the summer being so wet that you couldn't even put your clothes out to dry? Or why wouldn't we talk about this life hack that we found, which is making eggs in the microwave when you don't have a stove or anything for lunch? Or, why wouldn't we talk about a fourth floor stapler just being carried around the world alongside other people's travels instead of staying on the fourth floor where it belongs?
It's so clever, like, it because it absolutely makes sense and makes no sense at all, and that's
Yeah.
kind of the beauty of the
I
brand.
also think if we spoke about smoothies and juice all the time, no one would follow us. No
Yeah.
one would if we only spoke about what we sell, and we're trying to sell stuff to people all the time, no one would care. So you follow accounts to be entertained, to laugh, to feel happier or interested in what you're doing. So therefore, by making people smile, it keeps people interested. So when we do talk about the important stuff like juice and smoothies, people actually care
Yeah.
because they're used
And
to being entertained.
I guess you're trying to get to a huge amount of people. Your target audience is very broad, and so yeah, you can kind of talk about anything really. So in terms of like ideas that you have, drawing on people's heads, or like on people's cars in the car park, like where do those ideas come from? Do you have like a weekly meeting or a monthly meeting where you come in and everyone goes, I've got all, it's just a brain fart of, ideas, and then somebody goes, that's the one? Or are people coming in and all of them are absolute bangers and you've just got to decide which one?
No,
It's not that.
I wish.
Is there
No,
a lot of waste then?
I think it totally depends. Some ideas will be just on a whim. Some of them will be, as you said, like I guess a brain fart during a brainstorm session. Someone just, usually Ellie, will just stare at the sky and suddenly be like, "Why don't we talk about this?" And it will be completely off topic, but it will kind of plant the seed for something that can get bigger and better. I think I'm a really big believer in collaboration is what brings the best ideas. So whenever we do try and think of, or I guess an ideation phase, I guess you could call it, just like a session where we'll bring something in, either knowing, okay, we need to talk about this topic, but we're not quite sure how, or if we've got something that we've started working on, but we're still not quite sure whether it's done yet, we'll bring that into our what we call content brainstorm sessions, which we have with people from our creative team and our people's champs. And then we'll kind of all just sit around in a group and just talk about it. And sometimes we'll go completely off topic and then we'll start talking about something that everyone has something to say about. And then we realize, oh, wait, if everyone at this table can join in on this conversation, so can our drinkers. So maybe there's something in there instead. So it really is just, it depends on the day. It depends on people's moods as well. I think creativity is not something you can turn on and switch off. It kind of ebbs and flows. And so once you're in a good headspace, that's kind of when 600 ideas come at once. And then we just try and filter them down during the times when we're not feeling as creative.
It is the most chaotic meeting of the
Super
week, though.
chaotic. I think if we'd have an AI recording of it, AI wouldn't even be able to keep up with who said
Yeah.
what. Is everyone just chiming in? But it works. And I think it creates a nice little flow. And it's usually most people's favorite meeting of the week to look forward to, because you just know you can kind of just dump out all your thoughts.
Yeah. Yeah, no, we Joe and I went to Hyatt Denham's offices, and we they have a weekly email that comes out, and they have a weekly meeting, and people just come with ideas, and it was so lovely just to sit there and work through them and listen to all the things that people have sort of
I
seen.
really like, we invite sometimes like someone from the other side of the business in just to join. So someone from
Nice.
finance or IT, just to get their point of view and what they think would be funny. And it's really nice actually sometimes when you've got a group of people who are more creative led, more visual led, and then all of a sudden you have someone who spends all day looking at spreadsheets who comes in and actually has a completely different point of view, and it's so cool to get someone else who wouldn't normally do that stuff in as well. So now and again we'll invite someone random from the business to just come into one of those meetings and help as well, which is really cool.
That's really cool, because I guess that helps you with, in terms of like selling your ideas in and collaboration. Like if everybody knows what goes on in the social team, then they can, all moan about you, as opposed to
exactly.
So just touching on this idea of coming up with different content streams. A lot of marketers are drawn to trying to jump on trends. So I see things happening on LinkedIn and I'm like, we should have done that. And the temptation is to try and chase those trends. But I've kind of noticed you don't seem to jump on that many. And when you do, you'll kind of do it in a very innocent way. So you'll do it in quite a low touch, low cost way. So it'll be, saw something about the football and it was like, it was just a little calendar or the Bake Off, and it was quite a simple piece of content, but very relatable. Like, how do you feel about trends, and when do you decide to get involved?
I think trends is a really difficult one, because depending on the social media platform, you kind of are more or less dependent on them. Like TikTok as a platform, obviously you're quite dependent on either having trending sounds or trending, matching other things that have gone viral in the office. But it's also such a hit and miss, it can be quite frustrating. So in general, like, we don't believe to jump on trends just because it's trending. And that doesn't matter what platform we're on and what format we're looking at. We kind of look at, okay, what are people talking about? What would Innocent have to say about this? What's kind of, we call him the dude, like our logo. And so when we think about these things, we'd be like, well, how would the dude get involved in this? That makes it feel like the dude has said it, and it's not just a copy and paste and replica. And we very rarely do replicate it. And if we do, it's because we think it just matches in with a lot of what our brand stands for. So the two that I can think of off the top of my head that we replicated one-to-one was the Wes Anderson trend that was going around TikTok and Instagram last year. We replicated that because we just thought fruit towers is such a lovely place to show off and it can work really well. And then second of all, the one that we most recently did was actually last week, which was we did the Gen Z writes a script for not Gen Z people to
You said older,
I
didn't
almost
you?
said older, yeah. Not Gen Z people to talk about. And again, that was kind of, we don't usually dip into Gen Z lingo too much because the dude is millennial, but we had a big think about it, and what we did get together we thought does work really well, and it shows off the people internally and not necessarily, it doesn't have to be about the fact that Innocent has a brand as said it. It's more showing our place to work and where we work and why it's lovely. So
Yeah.
when we do it, it's a very conscious decision that we make.
So that kind of like leads on to one of the other questions I had around that post in particular. And it was a comment that I picked up where somebody had said that they were disappointed that you'd got involved, which I thought was quite funny in itself, that somebody would write that. And your response was, well, we'll make sure to add you to the list of people we've disappointed, Helen, which I think was absolute gold. Now, I personally like live in fear of typing. I mean, to me, really funny, yeah, really sort of funny response. But there's a line that Joe and I are very conscious of crossing, and it's right in front of our feet. We don't tend to stretch out too sort of far. Do you have, and this isn't meant as an accusation or but like, do you have a line?
Yeah,
Do you have
yeah, I know
Um,
exactly. Yeah. I think the biggest thing for us is when we're getting back to people, the joke has to be at our expense. So in saying that to Helen, we're just insulting ourselves, being like, we've got loads of people we disappoint because we're really rubbish at our jobs.
Nice.
So whenever we're getting back to people, we have to try really hard to make sure we're not insulting them when we're trying to, because Innocent, some people would describe it as sassy, which I don't like using that word to describe us, but that's how a lot of people would describe us. Whereas I think we're just quite witty in the way we get back. And I think as long as the joke isn't offending anyone or hurting anyone else and it's at our expense, then it's fine. I also think the joke should make someone smile. It should be a good joke and not. I think there's sometimes comments that we wish we could put, which actually are against tone of voice in terms of we never want to talk about certain topics or say certain rude words, things like that, which we probably, particularly Annie, would have a few comments she'd like to say which aren't quite on brand. And because we have such strict and clear brand tone of voice guidelines, we kind of learn what fits and what doesn't. So because of the guidelines and because we also just want to be nice to people, the jokes at our expense, and
Nice. I like
it's a
that.
nice way to follow the line. Sometimes we still push it, but we'll bring it back.
I push it quite a lot, to be honest, which is why she looked at me.
And do you like, if there are other people in the team that are maybe sort of dealing with comments, are like when they first join the team, is it a case of they have to watch how you're doing it and then they check all the comments before they post them, and then gradually you sort of let the reins a bit longer?
Yeah, so it's slightly different depending if you're on kind of the community side or the proactive side. But from a community's point of view, you first practice tone of voice on our like emailing system so that it's just one-to-one emails so that you understand the tone of voice before you're even allowed anywhere near social. And then you kind of move on to inbox on social with approvals with someone because it's the most similar to emails.
Yeah.
And then from there, it's shadowing people throughout your first kind of couple of months of just shadowing different people as well, because everyone has a slightly different way of responding, and people externally probably wouldn't know who's who, but internally we can kind of tell who's done what kind of reply.
Right. Interesting.
Which is funny when you know, like, you're kind of on the in and you know who's doing it, but from the outside, hopefully, people wouldn't know. But then, yeah, people shadow for a while, and then it's just checking approvals until eventually they're full-time on social, and then end up being funnier than we are. We train people in there.
What's
Same
brilliant
thing.
is from an outsider's perspective is, obviously I don't know all the team there, but I'm always amazed at how it feels like there's just one person running the whole social gig, and that's, I guess that's testament to all the slowly building everybody into the brand tone of voice, which is great. I've got a sort of question around if you've got sort of slightly more angry comments or things that are maybe more crisis comments rather than just somebody being a bit mean. People will have a dig at the fact that you're owned by Coca-Cola, or if you sort of make a mistake somewhere, like what's the difference there? Does it just get escalated straight up to one of you two? And like what's the procedure that you would go through in that sense?
I think there's certain topics which we have, so we're quite, as a business, quite transparent. We don't hide away from the fact we're owned by Coke. If we weren't owned by Coke, we might not be here, because they kind of stepped in and helped us when we were kind of struggling as a business money wise. So there's topics which we don't mind approaching. So the team kind of know the topics. With things like people challenge us a lot on sugar in our drinks, we have a response which we know all the sugar in our drinks is completely natural, because it's just fruit and veg in a bottle. We never add any. So people know how to approach sugar. People know with Coke to say, yeah, we are, but they've helped us, and yes, it's different, but we still have our purpose and our mission, and we're not afraid of that. When a comment's unknown territory, that's when kind of it gets escalated, and we've got a clear escalation process in place across all our countries and regions, which follows the same kind of send it to this person and then CC in someone from brand reputation, or depending on the topic, depends who gets added in. But we still, our team are the ones who kind of push to reply, because there's obviously still people in the business who would say, oh, well, surely it's safer if we just stay out of it. But for us, it's really important that we do get back to as many people as possible. So there is escalation in place for more areas of the unknown, as opposed to the usual comments we get. But again, sometimes there's stuff that there's people we can't turn around. Sometimes there's just hateful, horrible comments about things, and we kind of don't want to waste our time replying to someone if we don't think we can turn them around and they're just here for a fight. So it's kind of picking and choosing and learning to recognize those people and isolating.
Learning to work out who the trolls are and who
Yes.
wants to see the world burn. So
yeah, like we've got used to, there's some username on Instagram that we see pop up and we'll go, oh, he's back. So yeah, you get used to them.
That's really interesting. So you obviously all the stuff that people talk about, the Big Blue campaign, which we spoke about in our interview, the hats campaign, like there's some amazing things that have gone on. In terms of like things that have backfired or campaigns that have like flopped, presumably you've got a bunch of those that have happened as well. Like what's the sort of repercussions of that? Or do you sit around afterwards and go, that didn't work, why didn't it work, let's work it out? Or do you just brush it under the table and go, right, let's move on to something else?
No, absolutely not. We definitely sit down and go through it. I think this is one thing that I think, just working in social media in general, I've learned now that I'm at a team like Innocent, where I've got a bit of breathing room to think about these things and think a bit more strategic, because you're not one person doing all 10 channels and doing content every day for every day of the week, etc., etc. That the only way I've found to actually manage to prove the value of social media internally to higher up stakeholders is by really taking a look at, this is the key learnings that we can get from doing these campaigns and from doing them in this way. And so, as annoying as it is for a creative brain, data plays a huge part in that. So, what we will do is we'll kind of pick apart, regular performance stats versus what were the KPIs for something. We'll then pick apart, okay, what was the main feedback that we would get. So we'd then speak to the people's champs, and we'd kind of sit together in a room, and they'd be like, okay, consensus on this and this mainly was that people either didn't get it or misconstrued something or misunderstood something that was our call to action or something like that. Or vice versa, if it's done really well, they'll be, oh, everyone loved it. We got so and so many people reaching out to us. And then these are all stats that we can then bring up to higher up stakeholders when we're moving forward with campaigns and say, we learned that by doing a competition or a giveaway in this way, we learned that this is a lot more effective than if we do it in this way. And so because of that, and because we have the data to back us up, we can kind of take those learnings forward. So Innocent's quite a nice company to work for, in the sense that there's a lot of trust there to test and learn. But I think as well with social media, it's so necessary to have that support. And if you're not getting it, the best way to argue for it is by saying, well, this data can actually benefit you and your company policies in certain ways too.
Yeah. One of the questions I got for later on, really, which feeds in nicely, is like, what are you using to measure, and what are you measuring as a team?
Yeah. Well, so again, we split between proactive and reactive, but from the proactive side, so a tool that we use is Sprout, which is a social listening tool. And what we'll measure from the proactive side is we'll be looking at how many people are we reaching, but then also the engagement rate and the types of engagements we're getting, because posts that can reach a gazillion people and only have an engagement rate of 1%, I wouldn't call them as successful as posts where we've not reached as many, but almost everyone we've reached has engaged with it somehow. So there has to be a balance there, and we've got those targets set in our head. And then what we'll also look at is, if we're looking at how to grow a channel, we'll look at how many followers have we gained from each post. And a lot of the times, the ones that have really high engagement rate, but not as many, not as high of a reach, will actually have gained us more followers. So then when we're looking at how can we tailor our content to reach whatever KPIs we have set in place, we can compare them straight to the data that we're getting through.
Got you. That's really interesting. And when you talk about different platforms, you're on presumably all the main platforms that we talk about: Instagram, TikTok, LinkedIn. Are you guys on LinkedIn as a
It's not us,
brand?
our team, but as a
Okay,
brand we are, yeah.
you are. Are there any new platforms that you've got your eye on? When do you jump into something like, threads that came up whenever last year? Are you straight on them and testing them? And also, does that create internal problems because you've got a team looking after 6 channels, and now all of a sudden there's 7 channels? Like,
Yeah.
what's the thought process that goes into new social channels?
Yeah, I was going to say, honestly, it depends on time of year, what campaigns we've got going on, what resource we've got is always the starting point, because of course we don't know when a new channel is just going to pop up or when it's right for us. I think with threads we saw very quickly how much it was turning into Twitter and how many people were jumping. So it did become a bit of a, well, let's just chuck it on there as well and see what happens. And then it's not until it kind of blows up that then we're like, oh, okay, now we need to be checking this as well. But there's been like, I know at one point when Be Real was a big thing, we were like, should we be on Be Real? Like, is that weird for a brand to be on? And now all of a sudden brands are, but at the time we were like, actually, no, we don't have the resource to go into that and test it and put people behind someone having to take a photo every day. So depends what resources we've got, depends who's around, depends who's passionate about it at the time as well, because we have people who lead on certain channels, or sometimes people who will be really pushing for it, and we'll call it like a stretch project, where for a couple of months they'll try it and see what they can do, test and learn it, and then it just depends on the results really, and the data, as Annie said, and whether it's worth it and staying on it or not.
Yeah, no, that's really interesting. Are you still on Be Real? I didn't know.
No, we never went on it.
Okay, I was going to say, I did that.
Ellie is by herself.
Yeah, personally, not
every day at the office there's a Be Real day.
In terms of like planning, so we're coming up towards the end of the year. We're not that far. People are thinking about 2025, and there's this simple idea of I think it's Google's model, isn't it? Hero, Help, and Hub, or whatever it is, where you have your big hero campaigns, you have your useful stuff, and then you have your everyday kind of stuff. How far ahead are you planning, and what's the sort of percentage split of effort? So do you do like a hero campaign every month, every quarter, like, or is it most of the resources going into just day to day, what's going on? Let's do some reactive stuff. Like how does it? How do you
Yeah, I
plan things?
think holding our hands up, we've not been awfully good at planning in advance so far. But I would say the last 2, 3 months has been the first time that we can say, okay, we know what we're posting for the next month or two, and we've got a bit of breathing room to think about the bigger campaigns, and we're already setting in place, okay, these are the key moments in 2025. What we're going to do with them, we don't know yet. And I think we won't be super proactive and like plan this months in advance, because a lot of the time we do try and find again that hook of what are people talking about and how can we join in the conversation and link
Right.
it to something. So we don't try to plan too in advance, but when looking at campaigns in 2025, like I think a big thing as well, being in social media, is also knowing when to push back, because a lot of the time you'll have left, right, and center a million things going on that seem really, really important before the end of the year. But then going into the new year, when you actually look at, okay, what are the priorities as a business? What are the priorities within our team? If those are the priorities, do these campaigns somehow feed into that, or do they not align? And if they don't align, then I don't think there's really that much of a problem saying we're not going to deal with that. We're going to prioritize the ones that we know can do well and that
Yeah.
fit in with everything, and just stick to that. Because going back to what Ellie said, it's all about capacity as well.
Yeah.
You kind of sometimes feel like you get forced to say yes to everything, but actually there's something really healthy in saying, no, let's focus all of our energy to a few bigger things instead of trying to spread ourselves thin over 20, 30 different things.
I also think it gets sometimes separated by the people in the team as well. Like there's people who will focus more on the day-to-day and making sure we're putting content out and filming content. And then they'll be like, Annie will be in the strategy meetings for 2025, just understanding what we want to talk about, what our moments are for the year as a brand. And then Annie will take that away, but might not bring it to the team until a later date, because there's no point, because we want to be as relevant as possible. So there's normally someone who knows what's going on in the future, but it doesn't become kind of a team action point until closer to the time.
That's really interesting. So that was kind of my next question was, how closely are you to the ad team, the out of home, the print, the in store? Like presumably they're having to plan way, way in advance for a lot of
Yeah.
stuff. So it sounds like you've got visibility over that, but then
Yeah.
do you decide which campaigns you're getting involved in and which ones you're not?
Yeah. I mean, I can only speak for this year. I don't know how it has been previously, because I think ways of working change as well with as time goes on. And this year we've got a new approach to it, because we had some pretty big learnings from some campaigns we did in 2024. So I kind of get pulled in the moment they know whether they want to have a media plan or something that involves media in it. That's the starting point, and that's when I get pulled into those conversations. And then I don't really include the team until everyone outside of social is really clear on what they want from it, because there can be a lot of going back and forth with stakeholders on what is the actual point, what is the actual goal of this campaign, how does social media, also digital media, play a part in it, or is it just you want it on social so you can say you posted it on social as well? Because a lot of the times a lot of people won't have even thought about the different ways that they can activate social, and when I can realize, oh, they've not even thought about it, I won't even bother bringing it to the table, because that a lot of the time to me that just says that they're a little bit unprepared of thinking on the wider picture, and they've just been tunnel vision on their own thing.
It's tick box, isn't it? It's well, we'll post an out of home ad, we'll post on social, we'll post this.
Yeah.
And then it's kind of Annie's job to poke and go, okay, but why are we posting it on social? What's the message? Like, because it's easy to just, chuck it on social as well. Whereas Annie's like, no. She's like the mediator there to make sure we're not just posting everything that everyone wants in the business.
So I guess you have an influence over the campaign messaging to a large extent. If somebody goes, oh, we've got this idea about a new blue smoothie, and that it sounds like things like launching. Did the drink come first, or did the idea around
drink?
So the drink came first. Presumably the ideas were well, in fact, what were the ideas before you
Yeah.
got Duncan involved from Blue? Like, what's
Yeah, well, I
like,
mean, I think before that, just the bright colours of the drinks and it still being natural was a big like, well, great, we can just talk about
And
how cool
the
it is that it's blue.
the first blue drink, I think it was as well.
Yeah.
But I think that's a really perfect campaign example as to why it's so important to have someone on reactive, because the whole reason that became what it was because the people's champs were feeding back, oh, actually, loads of people are saying it's green and not blue. And then the social media manager at the time took that as okay, no, we need to double down, and that's what we're going to circulate the campaign around. And that's how it became a thing. It wasn't sit in an idea room beforehand and see how we can make a joke out of it.
Yeah, they knew they were going to push that it's blue and talk about the fact it's blue. And then when people started challenging that, that's, yeah, as Annie said, a double down. And okay, now people are getting really like angry about this. And like it went viral on, I think Twitter was first for it, followed by Instagram. And then it was like, okay, now as a team, what can we do to just almost annoy people more and challenge people more? And that's where then it was, can we get someone from Blue? Can we do this? Can we just talk about? So there was like a fake PR apology advert that was, oh, we're sorry because we brought up this drink and everyone thought it was going to be an apology for calling it blue. And then it was but we forgot to talk about this drink. And then they brought up another, like a red drink instead. So kind of playing into knowing that people will get rolled up by it, and just a big part of social obviously is playing into the fun, and
yeah. And that seems to be a theme, because I remember when we spoke last, you said there was an ingredient that went into one of the drinks, some sort of nut. I might know.
Conkers.
Oh yeah,
Conkers, that was it. And like, can you just explain that campaign for people? Because it
that
was like an
that
error that was made, but then you really lent into the error, and it became like a really quite a sort of smart social campaign.
Yeah, so we used to have nut milks, RIP, and as a joke, we once made fake Conker milk, or like had Conker milk, a bottle with a label that said Conker milk on it next to our nut milks as a joke. And afterwards, we found out from our legal team that Conker milk is actually poisonous and humans should not be drinking Conker milk. And we've basically put ourselves in a really precarious position. And so we then had to basically draft out these huge statements just saying, do not eat conkers. That post was a joke. We do not encourage conker milk eating or drinking. And people just found it really, really funny and just carried on with it.
Yeah, and I think as well, the actual first person to say aren't conkers poisonous was a comment. So it was someone saying, wait, I don't think you're meant to drink conkers. And then it was oh, actually, then we kind of looked it up and it was, oh yeah, no, you can't. And then it was going to legal being like, we've just said this. Whoops, we're going to fix it, and kind of put it back. But then what's great is to this day, people still comment on all our posts being like, have you got a Conker smoothie, Conker juice coming out? So people still remember the stuff
Brilliant.
we did years ago, which is where we're really lucky because we've got followers who have been there since the very beginning, who will constantly torment us with old mistakes. So that's always nice.
I love it. I love it. We should take some questions from the community. We've got 21 open questions. To start off with, one that we get asked, and I'm sure plays on everybody's mind, how do you manage content between different social media platforms? So do you tailor your content to the specific platform? And if so, how do you do that?
Yeah, I think that's one that we really have been working on the last couple of months. We definitely tailor it. Again, data really annoying, but really helps. So we can tell really quickly, even just by comparing posts that we've done across, say we've just done a copy-based post on Facebook, Twitter, and Threads. And on Facebook, it's done really, really well, but on Twitter and Threads, it hasn't. We can usually deduct by that, okay, that means on Facebook, this type of the content works really well, but on Twitter and Threads, it doesn't. So let's try something else on Twitter and Threads. And so we try and monthly look over it, hone it in, be like, okay, this has done really, really well. So let's keep on tailoring our content towards that format. And then TikTok and Reels, I think it's really easy to post the same thing on both. We don't really do that. Like it has to be a really specific reason why we post the same videos on both. We try and make TikTok more short, a little bit more snappy and witty. And then Instagram, we've found longer reels actually work quite well for us. So the longer period things we use for reels, and then TikTok we use shorter form content as well.
Interesting. That is really interesting because I mean, we're kind of like low on resource and we're hiring for a role to kind of help us with that. But it's you just end up going, oh, I've made a vertical video, like I haven't got time to tweak it. I'm just going to put it out there. Do you think it's better to if you are short on resource, better to just post the same thing across all platforms, or would you rather post less?
I was going to say it depends on your purpose as a brand and as a company as well, because if you're just trying to reach more people, although it's not like brilliant advice, actually sometimes just posting it everywhere so you reach as many people as possible might help. Whereas
Yeah.
because we're more focused on quality over quantity now, because it's about keeping people and making people love the brand, we'd probably be more selective on it. So it depends where you are
Yeah.
as a brand or business.
I
Yeah,
think
brilliant.
as well, like one thing that people always tend to forget, because we always talk about impressions, reach, and engagement rate as like the three key social media metrics that you use for social media. But a huge one as well is, where do the followers come from to grow your channel? And if you're dropping off, when are they dropping off? Is it after you've posted something and they realize you're still about and they just don't like the post? Is it, when on Twitter, for example, Elon's just updated something else and everyone's fed up and then they all just quit the platform again and they then increased on threads? It's a lot of things like that that come into play as well. So I think follower growth is always one that's really helpful when you're thinking about, is it worth posting? Has the content that you've posted previously, even if it's reached loads of people, but engagement rate's been really crap, has it actually given you to grow your community or not? And if it hasn't and you've not really engaged with your community, then I would question that for sure.
Brilliant. Simon, who is part of the Birmingham Marketing Meetup and a good friend, is asking, what is the campaign that you are most proud of, and what is it about that campaign that made it for you?
Me?
Yeah.
I always say, I mean, kind of cheeky because it's not really social, but Big Knit is we're known for hats on bottles, and the fact that it's been going for 20 years and we still have essentially our wonderful knitters who are strangers knit hats for us that we then can put on bottles and then give the money to charity. It's just the most, for me, the Big Knit is the most innocent branded campaign ever, because it's so wholesome, it's fun, it's sweet. And it's the thing that most people recognize. Like if I tell someone I work at Innocent, they say, "Oh, the drinks with the little hats," and the little hats come about every couple of years. Yet that's the thing that people remember. And I think the fun we can have with it now on social as well amplifies kind of what the campaign was before. And it's straight away, we did a teaser last week to say it was coming back, and already everyone knew straight away what it was and the excitement for it, that and the buzz we get off social.
It's such a good campaign. When it first came out, I got my wife gets really cold hands, and I put one of the hats on her gear stick in her car to keep her hands warm, and it was there for like years.
Yeah,
it's just
we get lots of fun pictures on gear sticks and hamsters, sometimes some not so fun, slightly questionable pictures of hats and other things. And I wish I was joking, but my first week at Innocent was
no.
an intense one.
Yeah.
But with lots overall, normally a very wholesome, family friendly, great campaign.
You are dealing with the internet after all.
Yeah.
For
We've
sure.
got a question from Nick, who says, do the reactive team use any Gen AI resource / chat for answering the more functional or standard questions?
Nope. So it has been something that's come up, even as a team, and kind of we're getting more and more contact. It's like, oh, should we be using AI? Should we be using a chatbot? It's come up, we've spoken about it. The heart of Innocent is being human and being able that people can talk to us and know they're talking to a human on the other side. So even for us, we don't use chatbot. Every single reply is done by a person on the other side, drafting an individual reply each time. People might say that's a bit more time consuming, but for us it's worth it, and it makes a difference. And we've had emails in the past that I use as examples in all meetings where it's being challenged that say, thank you for actually just being a human. It made my life so much easier, rather than having to ask it, then it not quite answer and back and forth. For us, we don't. But
sorry, are you using AI in on the other side in terms of like generative stuff? Are you to come up with ideas or to brainstorm stuff?
What I'll do is I'll like type into ChatGPT what's the social media calendar look like for December, and then that will help me with like what are key days in the UK. Is there anything we can comment on? So like to come up or like start planting seeds for ideas, yeah. Execution, absolutely not. It's very similar. We've tried a couple of times using ChatGPT or like other AI software. And whenever we ask them for anything that's meant to be an innocent tone of voice, it just really misses the mark. Quite funny, like it's quite funny how it does. But it's
I was going to say, technically, we kind of used it ironically because we said, can you make 3 posts for innocent drinks? And then it came back with 3 posts so bad that we were like, as a team brainstorming activity, we were like, this is what Chat GPT has said. How can you make it actually innocent tone of voice, or how can you make it something we would actually post? So we kind of used it knowing it would be absolutely not what we wanted, like not the purpose that it's meant to do. So maybe not the best way to use it, but we had a laugh with it, I'll say.
Yeah. No, it's interesting. It's certainly a lot of this AI stuff that we've been using or trialing. Some of it's great, some of it misses the mark so much. Like
I think that's the thing, and if we maybe uploaded the hundreds and hundreds of tone of voice documents we have to an AI system, and then I still think, but it would be a lot better than when you put it into like a generic search engine, but I still don't think it quite gets sarcasm as good as maybe a human does, and the fun human side it just won't be able to match.
Yeah. So moving on to something slightly more dry and technical, Raymond has asked, I work in a very dry technical industry and can sometimes get pushback on the more left field content ideas. Have you ever had pushback on your content, and any tips on overcoming the pushback? So this is going to be something that's relevant to a lot of people, where they're working for an engineering firm in Milton Keynes on an industrial estate. Like this, it's hard, right, to do social media for some things like that. What's the advice you would give?
100%. And I think like we still have that pushback at Innocent. I think a lot of people will say, oh, Innocent, you know, when you're at Innocent, you can do whatever you want. It's definitely not like that. We definitely still get pushback here. I actually used to work at a digital transformation agency, which is about as dry as it gets with how you can make social media fun for them. So I fully empathize with it. And personally, like I think the only way forward is really provoking conversations and educating. I have caught myself a couple of times in rooms with people where they don't know nothing about social media. They're either a CEO, CMO, who, you know, was when they were in like exec level roles, was way before social media needed a department at a company. So their actual work experience with social media is not going to be particularly big or particularly high or valid. And so it's up to us to really push them on why it makes sense. And again, this is where I think collecting data and have something to stand for that's beyond, oh, it would be really fun and we'd stand out or we'd maybe go viral. Those sentences aren't sentences that's going to resonate with someone who's trying to run a business or trying to grow a business in a certain way. But instead saying, oh, actually, if you give me 3-4 months to just kind of hone in my craft and actually work on it properly, I can guarantee you that will grow our audience by so and so many people. Or I can guarantee that, you know, our KPIs for if we put something on paid, that if we're like a B2C business and we're trying to sell a product, I can make sure the ads that we have and the learnings that we've gotten from the previous ads we've done lead for us to have a so and so large amount of ROI. It's really about that. And if you don't have any money things you can throw at stakeholders, my number one thing that I always use as a bargaining chip is actual data on opinions from people who follow you. So what I'll often like to do is I'll like to ask the People's Champ team on reports on, you know, how many people have mentioned specific drinks since we started a campaign about this specific drink? How much has it increased on social media? How many people will interact with us on a social story or something like that, so that, you know, we ask a lot of nonsense questions and talk about a lot of nonsense, but say if we want to find out whether a certain bottle shape works for the customers or the drinkers who are drinking it, what we can do is we can go to social and we can ask a pool of maybe 10,000 people who are all really engaged and really interactive. And then we can bring that pool back and say, out of the 10,000 people who drink our drinks regularly, say 8,000 of them thought the bottle shape isn't actually working for them. So we can then take that into the business and the business can make those changes, which ultimately will somehow lead towards profit for the business. So It's really just making it clear communication towards stakeholders that that's the bigger picture stuff that social media can deliver. It's just up to them to support you.
Yeah, I think to challenge that as well, I'm completely rubbish at bringing in the data and bringing in that's not my forte at all. But if you literally ask someone who's challenging you, what brands do you follow on social media? Do you follow anyone? And if you do, why? No one ever, very rarely says, "Oh, I follow it so I can get really dry, boring information." Like people will follow things. Either yes, sometimes like I'll follow like BBC to be up to date on news. There's a purpose with that. People follow brands because they want to be entertained or laughed, and ask the people challenging you if they follow brands, and if they do, why they do. And sometimes that's even helped people be like, "Oh, I follow Dave because Dave TV channel is actually quite funny on Instagram." So and you don't follow them because you want to know what TV shows are on. So I think also challenging people on why they would follow a brand then sometimes helps you to also push why you should post something.
Yeah, it's really interesting. And I guess part of that can be following like competitors and using the competitors' social channels, which if they are doing well, to say, look, you know, such and such business, which is quite similar, is getting a lot of engagement and a lot of reach on their content.
Definitely.
It's really
But
good.
even using people that aren't in the same industry, I think we always tend to get really wrapped up with who's our industry leader. But I think social media has become so fluent now. A lot of the things that you'll see one industry doing, you can apply to your own. You just need to maybe be a bit creative in how you start applying it to your own, but it's still possible. So when we look at competitors, we don't necessarily look at who are we directly competing against in the industry on social. We'll look at, okay, which are the social media accounts that we find funny, that we want to talk about, that we take inspiration from, and we directly compare ourselves to them.
Nice. That's a really nice way of looking at it. And I guess that brings fresh ideas to that particular industry.
Exactly. Yeah.
Really Katie has asked, well, she says, I'm the only marketer in a small company, and I often find it quite difficult to hype up my team members to help with taking part in content for social media. Do you have any tips for motivating and encouraging team members to invest in
Forcing people to be in TikTok to get it.
Exactly that. Yeah.
Yeah. So I'm quite reckless in that way. I will, and I completely appreciate it's really awkward when people say no, but I will just, instead of saying, can I film you for social media, I will just walk around with my phone in my hand and I'll look at who doesn't look busy. And then I'll walk up to them and I will literally just say, have you got 30 seconds? I just need a video of you juggling an orange, for example. And so I won't explain what platform it's going on. I won't explain what the content itself is for. I'll just be like, I need a video of you doing this. Can you do it now? And if they say yes, which 90% of the time they do, because they're like, oh, that's kind of weird. Why are you doing that? I want to get involved in this. They get more engaged with it. And if they're like, oh, I don't really feel that, but I'd maybe do something else, then you kind of pounce on that and try and figure out what they're up for doing. And if they say no, they say no, and you just move on to the next person. But in my experience, that's the easiest way to get someone involved. And usually they're much more up for it if they know it won't take a long amount of their time and you can get it done quickly.
I also I appreciate it's harder in a smaller company, but I also tell people, I'm like, you haven't really worked here unless you've been on the social media account. Like, there's no proof that you, like, this is a good way to show people that you do actually work here. So just bully people into it that way.
That's brilliant. I love that. And it's a hard thing, right? Because people worry about what they look like on camera and
Oh, I didn't put makeup on today. Oh,
Yeah.
I've not got nice shirt on. Oh, I've got this. It's
yeah.
also, we work with really nice people, so we're quite lucky. So I think sometimes also just being like, I'm really desperate. Please, would you mind just being in this video? Because I'm on the edge, and then actually sometimes people will normally rather help you with a video than see the other side of it.
I think as well, like not fully scripting stuff and just making it so that the person feels comfortable in front of the camera has such a big impact and is really valuable as well. So just
100%.
making sure that it's like
So
come on, we'll just do it for 5 minutes. All you have to do is run up the stairs, run back down again. Okay, cool, perfect, bish bash bosh, bye.
So Katie, either bully them or make them feel sorry for you.
Yeah.
That's kind of the two extremes.
We I ran a video agency for 6 years, and we did, I think, 2 shoots had scripts, and they were the worst ones we did because nobody can deliver lines unless they're an actor. And so I completely second that. Sort of off the cuff stuff is always better. We've got a question here from I'm going to jump to Charlotte's question actually. How do you hire someone who will be able to deliver that brilliant comical tone of voice, because you're interviewing for something that's quite unique, but
Yeah.
you can't always tell whether that person's able to do
Yeah.
it initially. How do you do
And
that?
without giving away what we ask in interviews in case, people come in the future, we just test people with comments. We just give people examples of our comments and say,
Okay.
reply. There's we don't expect people to have the innocent tone of voice, but there's things we look for in their replies to see if they can just gauge when someone's got the humor, when as long as someone can choose the right time to be sensitive and empathetic versus the right time to be funny and a bit sarky or whatever it is. There's ways we test it, but it is hard. And I think we've got lucky that we've hired always funny people as well, which is quite good. We've lucked out.
We don't deliberately ask like a funny question in an interview
No.
or anything like that. I think it's just because we've been so trained into the tone of voice, we know what to look for when others don't know what they're doing, but are trying to write or speak in our tone of voice. And so we can then pick up on, okay, that's a trait that's actually really important for the tone of voice. So that's what we need to follow.
And tone of voice is also teachable, whereas almost like the human side of recognizing feelings and the emotional intelligence through a screen is kind of the stuff that's more important, because we can kind of teach tone of voice.
Yeah, that's really interesting. So you're looking for emotional intelligence rather than sort of a copywriting skill or
I mean, if they're a copywriter who's also emotionally intelligent, great. But it's more as well, do they use the right there and there, and are they emotionally intelligent?
Yeah.
Great.
Yeah. Just one final question, which I think you might have covered already. Reese has said, what's your process for finding out what people are talking about and finding relevant conversations to join? Do you use any specific software? And you mentioned Sprout. I don't use Sprout, but is that something you use to just measure your own stuff, or is it a social listening tool that you use to find other conversations?
So
it is, but we don't.
Yeah, I was going to say you can technically be, but we don't use it for that. No, what we usually do is I find it really helpful. I usually have first 15 minutes in my day, and I know everyone in my team does as well, of just scrolling through feeds, and that's TikTok and Threads. I found the most helpful because Threads right now is just everyone's brain dumping on it. So in terms of if you're trying to figure out what people are talking about, 5 minutes on Threads will probably give you the A to Z. These are the news topics of the day that are like, I guess, cultural topics and not actual news. And then TikTok is important to see if there's any trends that are going on that we can match something to or anything like that. But I also think it's really important to encourage anyone to send stuff in, because obviously the algorithms shape around whatever your likings are. So we will, in every brainstorm session, we'll open up the question to everyone in the room saying, is there anything that you've seen on your feed that maybe we haven't? And then on a wider scale, whenever there are big things that pop up, that we've been sent to from people outside of our team, we'll acknowledge them for it and we'll really communicate across the business. If you do see anything, please send it our way, because we can't see all the content that's ever out there on social media.
I also think just listening in general office, everyone's like, that's been the biggest thing for me. We'll hear people just discussing things like the weather outside or that thing that happened that's like big and international, and actually we'll use that as
is that our time up?
Yeah, that's someone being like, get out of my meeting room. But yeah, we'll use that as a listen online and listen literally as well, because when you hear people talking, you realize that's what people are talking about,
especially on the tube or on the bus.
Amazing. Well, look, we're at 3:00. I'm so appreciative, first of all, for letting me and Joe into your office in the first place, but second of all, giving time to all the hundreds of people that were logged in today. It's so interesting to hear how things work. Somebody said big slay from
thanks for having us.
Thanks.
It's just been great. And once again, if I can just say a huge thank you to all the people that supported us: Frontify, Exclaimer, Redgate, Cambridge Marketing College, and ScoreApp. We don't have a webinar next week, but we will be sending interesting content out. So please do keep your eye on emails. Thank you.
I'm sorry, because we're getting kicked out, so we're going to have to go.
Go make some smoothies. See you guys.
See you guys. Thanks, everyone.
Bye.